And we are streaming in. Hey there everyone, Hitesh here, back again with another Saturday Live. And yes, the Saturday Live frequency is going to increasing up a lot. It's been a while that I have catched up with a lot of you guys, and I'm pretty happy to catch up with you again. And I'm trying to bring in a lot of guests to talk about a lot of things. Now, with the EdTech especially, when you bring in somebody who is also running an EdTech, a lot of time people think that, hey, it's just a competition. But in reality, it is not. It is more about we all have the same idea behind solving a problem. My take of solving it is a little bit different, their take of solving is a little bit different, but we are all solving a same problem. So I want to put this in front of everyone that all the edtech people behind the scene, they are all just good friends, and I would love to bring in one of my good friends up here. You might have seen him a lot and his ads and everything, they are pretty much popular. And now let me bring in up here. So let's go up here. Hey Anshuman, how are you?
Hey Hitesh, hi. Glad to be here. Glad to be hosted by you. And as you said, yes, I mean we're all solving the same problem. We're all friends. People tend to feel that competitors are enemies of sort. It's absolutely not true.
Yeah, it is never like that. It's never like we are trying to put up the problem or something like that. We are all solving the same problem. Whatever we are facing, our takes are different in solving it, but
Right.
it's just the same problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so welcome on board. In case you don't know, Anshuman runs one of the big ed tech, like pretty honestly, insanely, freakingly big ed tech right now, Scalar. And everybody knows Scalar or Interview Bit. You probably know one of them. We have like kind of same ish audience to be around who are going into the programming domain or trying to get more into the programming domain. So we're going to be going in. So we're going to be going in and taking a lot of questions and stuff around how to build a startup, how to scale this up, a bit of a raw conversation. First, Anshuman, congratulations for the newer acquisition that you have made.
Thank
It
you.
made
Thank you.
almost every headline out there. This was already a popular institute. Everybody loved it already. So I think you guys are now merging in the team. Am I right?
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, I one of the reasons why we looked at them is because I mean, a lot of other companies do acquisitions because they feel that they will get more leads, which is like more registered users. One of the primary reasons why we did this acquisition was we felt the team was exactly like us, which means they were equally passionate about education and quality of education, and everybody in their cohort loves them. And I mean, to be honest, we see that rarely with with a lot of ethics that are out there. So we felt like this is a match made in heaven, and hence we sort of did everything we could do to make it work. And we're very grateful that they also put that trust in us to come and join us on the journey.
Yeah, sometimes it's like you need to come together to actually. Surely you can do everything on your own alone. That sometimes you hit a bottleneck, and if you bring in the people with the same views, you can actually grow pretty much exponentially out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, not all one plus ones are equal to two. There are cases when one plus one. I mean, when two people come together, the combined entity is just far stronger than what the individual sum might be. For example,
Yeah,
um, again, another acquisition that I had seen in my own time was the acquisition of Instagram by Facebook.
yeah.
So Instagram alone was doing really well, and they would probably have kept to do really well had they been alone. However, like once they combined with Facebook, they got so much of visibility, so much of user base. Their user base like doubled and tripled in within a month. So that that was again like a very similar match made in heaven. Very similar companies coming together, becoming stronger
And
as a whole entity.
and to be honest, like personal views again, they kind of saved Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, today, if had Instagram and WhatsApp not been there, Facebook would have been a much weaker company than what it is today.
Yeah, and you would be much in a loss situation in that case because a lot of people know that you have worked on Facebook, so you might be having a lot of shares there, so you might be in the loss in that situation.
Yeah, yeah.
So first big question that I ask everyone up here: are you a tea person or a coffee person?
Oh, absolutely tea person.
Ah,
I
love that. Love that. I'm also a tea
I'm a
person.
chai
Iced tea
person.
is
In
my
fact, not
favorite one.
just tea,
Yeah,
the,
tea
the
is
Indian
always,
chai.
tea is OP.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, moving on. First thing that I want to ask you and want to share with this. See, we both are into building companies and startups and all of that. I have failed a lot. Probably you have failed a lot in that, and now you're building it up again. So, yes, building a company from the scratch is tough enough. What would you advise you would give a beginner? Just one advice that who is looking forward to start his journey. So, what would you recommend him? Just one thing.
Right. I think if you just ask me one thing, then it is build something that actually solves a real problem, and use the use the best tool you have or the fastest tool you have to achieve that, rather than going after fanciness. There actually, to be honest, like one or two major problems I see with when I talk to people, the common mistakes that they make. One is they pick something fancy as in like today, there are certain technologies that are hot, and they just pick that, and like they start from I'll use this technology. They arrive to the problem statement later. Now, if you're trying to retrofit the technology to the problem statement, you'll always end up building a suboptimal solution. You should start from the problem statement. Here is a problem statement I want to solve. Here is the solution.
Yeah,
And the second
I
thing
would
is
agree on that point. Some people just want to get so much hurry into just building a startup. They don't even have a problem. They said, "Hey, give me some idea." You don't land up like that. You first need to
right,
figure out some problem on your own, and until you have figured it out, just don't build a startup.
right, right. Actually, there's a thing called as so when you go and talk to investors, one of the terminologies they use is founder market fit. What that means is that how close is the founder to the problem statement? Have you experienced the problem statement yourself, and hence you are the best person to solve it because you have nativity to the problem statement. Um, if you if you again arrive at the problem statement just because you started from the technology and then you went to the problem statement, most probably you'll not have the right kind of founder market fit. Somebody else might end up doing a better job. The other thing, by the way, like, which I also want to mention, I know that you said just name me one thing, but I want to add this because this is again a very common mistake I see people doing. Is that like one primary reasons why most companies fail is because they're not at solving problem for a long enough time. They give up too easily. So the other advice which I would have for anybody starting up is think about what it would take for you to spend, let's say, 3 to 4 years on solving that problem statement. Do you have the financial stability to say that I am going to solve this problem statement, even if that means that I'm not earning for the next 3 4 years because I am giving my sweat equity to this problem statement? Will I still survive or not? Otherwise, you're always fighting this battle where you're figuring out your survival and then like the company's survival, not best for building a large company, a company that sustains.
That's also something I take a different take on that one because surely on certain thing we are onto the same path, but I get with a different take. I move with the thing like it's not about just 1 year or 5 year. I think it's all about a lifetime thing. You
Absolutely.
need to put in your lifetime because the way how I move in, I don't move in with the plan B. I just move with the plan A. No matter what happens, I'm solving a particular statement, so I'm gonna go all in. There's no
Hmm.
plan B. Till die, it's going to happen this way, and this is how I'm going to move forward. So no matter what happens, so this is what I take. A lot of people take a plan of 1 year or 5 year. I don't. I just move in throughout the life for that. I'm ready for that.
Right, right, right. And actually, those are the kind of companies or people that actually eventually end up succeeding. The one thing that I would call out there is that be married to the problem statement, not the solution. The solution would keep changing. Companies pivot
Yeah.
because the solution changes. They realize that the solution is not working. Um, just like you're solving a mathematical problem and
Yeah,
then you realize
exactly.
this
Exactly.
approach
I was
doesn't work.
about to say that. It's like a math problem. Sometimes you take this part, sometimes you take that part. It's a derivation. Sometimes it takes a different approach.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So another thing I would like to pitch in is a scalar is a pretty big name. You like it or don't like it, that's a different take, but it's a pretty big name. So where do you see like in the next 1 or 2 year the trajectory that you want to move to the company, especially when the pandemic is over, because it's a very crucial thing. because the growth that every company, including mine and yours, have seen in that was exponential because everybody was inside. We cannot expect that same kind of a growth now. So where do you see, like, what's the plan for was 1 to next year, 2 year, if you can share?
Sure, sure. I mean, let me start with the problem statement that we're trying to solve. Like the problem statement is today uh, in India, most people either want to become engineers or doctors. By the way, just one thing which I want to check, given this is live, uh, is my stream constant? Because I might be connected to a bad network. I can switch my network.
It's pretty okay. Not
It's okay.
lagging too
Okay.
much. It's pretty fine.
Okay. If it lags, just let me know. Then I'll switch my network.
Sure, sure.
Um, so I mean, in India everybody becomes an engineer or a doctor, and I mean, there was a stat shared somewhere that there are 1.6 million, which is 16 lakh people who go for engineering every year. And they're like, one of the things, there is a report by Aspiring Minds that says that 96 or 98, I forget the exact number, but like 96 or 98% of the graduates from our engineering programs are unemployable. And now I can go ranting about why this education system is broken, what needs to be fixed, but I don't want the session to be that. Now, for us, like pandemic or no pandemic, I mean, our mission statement remains the same. Let's fix the education system. Um, Good education should not be a thing of privilege. Now, today we live in a world where the privilege is not money privilege, but the
Wh-
privilege
I would
is.
like to stop you there a bit inter between. Why do you say that education system is broken? Like, I don't see it as too much broken. We have produced you, we have produced me, we have produced Sundar Pichai and Satya Nadella and all of them. And I think there is some role of the college that they are teaching. They are not teaching exactly the coding that everybody wants to love or write right now, but definitely I didn't wanted to learn about those mechanics drawing or something. So what is your take on this one? Like, is it really that broken that everybody streams about?
Right, right. I actually let me take a step back, right? So, firstly, like think about how many people actually. So one is like, if you look at the college education system, you have the IITs and the triple IITs and the NITs, and then you have every other college. People from IITs and IITs, triple IITs, they obviously have much higher chances of success. Now, is that because they get the best quality of education, or is that because of the community that they're part of? I mean, if you put, let's say, 100 really sharp people or sharp minds in a building over a period of time, I mean, they would go and figure out things on their own. They would go and learn things on their own. They would excel on their own. So the one thing that actually we have succeeded at is like using the IITs or the NITs or the triple ITs. We've been able to get very very smart minds together in a single space where they live together for whatever 3 years, 4 years, and hence end up learning a lot from each other. There is a lot of osmosis that happens. Um, that is the part we've gotten right. I mean, obviously that could also be better, but that is the part that we've gotten right. However, again, I shared a stat with you: 16 lakhs people going for engineering every year. If you look at how many people get taken into all of the IDs and IDs, triple IDs combined, that's probably less than 40,000, 50,000, right? And 16 lakh minus 40,000, 50,000 is still almost 16 lakhs. So a vast majority of people then, do I say that these guys are not worthy of high quality of education? And I really can't. I mean, if I look at my classroom, I come from a city called Lucknow. If I look at my classroom, which had like 40 people, of those 40 people, sure, I mean, there were people who used to come first, second, third. I mean, even for the top 10, I would say they were decently sharp. Now, from that classroom, I went to a good college. The remaining nine did not end up into a good college, and they had a very different career trajectory. Extremely, extremely poles apart. There is one other, by the way, example that my co-founder gives. So my co-founder is Abhimanyu. He comes from a city called Shahdol. Shahdol is in Madhya Pradesh. It's a tribal area. So he gives an example that he comes from a school where uh, one of his one of his batchmates who used to usually come like second or third in the class today drives an auto rickshaw. um, Not again because he was not smart, because the access to IITs, triple IITs, and NITs is limited to a very few set of people. Um, so when I said that, like, uh, very high quality of education is a thing of privilege, again, I don't mean that it's a thing of privilege because it has economic boundaries, financial boundaries. It has boundaries of um, meritocracy, right? Like, you say that only 1,000 people are able to get here, or only 10,000 people are able to get here, while a lot many more might actually be eligible to get high quality of education, right? So that's the part that is broken. Even the top part has room for improvement. I mean, again, if we compare the IITs and triple IITs to the counterparts, few counterparts in the West, I mean, we could probably innovate faster in how we drive their education. You took name of Sundar Pichai, and a few other people. I mean, even me. Um, I probably am nothing in comparison to Sundar Pichai, but I think a lot of those people benefited from being in the same room with very, very smart people. Sundar Pichai benefited from that in IT Kharagpur, then went to US and benefited from being around really smart people at Google. I also had to be honest, like, I learned a lot, a lot when I was in Facebook, just because I was surrounded by very, very smart people. So I mean, I feel it's broken because it's limited to a very few set of people, and there also the learning is happening through osmosis from smart people. The direction itself is not um, driving majority of the learning outcomes.
I agree on that point, on certain points, not all.
Sure.
Agree. Okay, another tough question coming on to you. So you act as a CEO as well on the company. So what is the one toughest thing that you think that is the role of a CEO?
Yeah, I mean, so in my first job at Facebook, my manager of manager, he's now the CTO of Facebook. His name is Andrew Bosworth. Um, he said, like, I feel, and this is like this was we were just doing this very random chit chat. He said, like, I feel the best managers are managers who, even if they don't talk to their reportees for like 6 months, even then the work gets done. um, a lot of companies actually take the opposite view, where they micromanage their reportees. And by the way, what he said is achieved if there is very high level of clarity of what my scope of work is, and there is very high level of ownership in the teams that are reporting to you. So my job as a CEO is to get to that state where all of, like, my org or my reportees get to that state where, even if, let's say, tomorrow I have to take a break for 6 months or a year, things keep happening without my involvement. And very similar thing for their respective org leads as well, right?
So
Like,
are you
even
at
they,
that point?
no, very, very far from it. The CEO life is so very hard or difficult.
Okay, agree on that part. Okay, so another thing, another question, since you are running a kind of a pretty massive organization, expansion of a team in such an organization is a crucial part. You have to do it. It's also the toughest part because once a bad element gets into the team, removing that bad element is one of the toughest thing in the organization that I can see. So how do you hire people?
Yeah, I mean, actually, like, with a lot of the hiring that today happens on -1, -2, -3 level, I'm also personally involved. But I think, like, hiring becomes a lot easier if you have been able to create good culture. I wouldn't say that we have the best culture in India, but I mean, we feel that people are decently happy at Scalar. People working here at Scalar are decently happy, and that actually helps us attract a lot more people, because just like buying, when you're buying a product, you do your own due diligence of asking people around, like, how is it, how is this product, have you used it, etc. Very similarly, like, the largest problem most companies face today is the joining ratio. I give out an offer to a person, whether that person comes and joins me or not, especially like good talent. Um, there, if you have created a culture where people have really good things to say about the company and like how they love working here, then hiring automatically becomes easier. In fact, you see like a lot of good people coming and approaching you and saying that, hey, is there a way I could contribute? Um, so fortunately, and not by conscious choice, like, we've been able to at least come to a place where there is some pull from people to come and work at Scalar. That makes the hiring journey easier. And I have a very capable team internally that actually helps us go and reach out to the right kind of people, and then sort of hire them.
So how does a typical, let's just say, a software engineer looks like that? What is the hiring process? You want to hire, let's just say, me as a software engineer into your company. How many rounds I have to go through? Do I have to accomplish aptitude as well, solve those lead code problems as well? So what does it look like? I want to get hired in your company. Let's just say, how does it roll in?
Right. So the process differs from level to level. Obviously, like the process for a senior engineer might be different from an entry level engineer, um, and so forth. Let's say I talk about somebody who's getting hired at a 2 to 4 years of experience. There, they typically get hired at a level higher than an entry level engineer. And the process is like, the first part is where uh, we obviously don't go to lead code kind of problem statements, but we want to make sure that if given a scenario, are you able to write code, an efficient code to solve that problem. So that's round one. Round two is actually what you call as machine coding or low level design in some context. Essentially, we give you a case. Now this case could be building a small app, or building just a, let's say, tic-tac-toe, that kind of a thing. um, and we ask you to write code for a working tic-tac-toe.
Okay.
Now if that is working, then like the next round actually focuses on like design choices that you made, of what kind of class structure did you create, what kind of objects did you create, why did you create it a
Like
certain way.
justification of the code.
Justification of the code, right? Structure of the code, right? Like, so
Okay.
while it's a working code, like is it structured really well or not. uh, so if that gets done, then we usually have, if that goes really well, then we skip a few rounds and we then directly move to the culture fit
Then
round.
you skip a few rounds, so there are a few rounds after that.
Yeah, I mean, so if at all we have a concern in one of the earlier rounds, we tend to do one more just to get clear clarity that yes, I mean, this is where the person actually lacks. It was not just one person's opinion. So we could do a repeat a low level design round, or we could do a repeat problem solving round. If things have gone well, then we directly move to a culture fit round, and the culture fit round is just like digging deeper into your behavioral traits. Um, we believe that like humility is a common trait that should come with people. We filter very heavily for that. We filter very heavily for bias for action, which means instead of preparing plans for 2 months, like what can you get done in a month. Those kind of people we like a lot. So we usually filter out for those kind of people, um, and then make an offer.
Okay, seems fair, seems fair. Okay, another one, shooting up from the Facebook days again for you. So you have worked at Facebook, and that to the founder himself closely on the same floor. So what is the one thing that you get as a positive impact? Because in the media right now, the PR is running really bad for him, but I know it's going to change. It was once really bad for Bill Gates also at one point of time. These
Right.
new audience or people who are new to the internet doesn't know this, but he was a bully at one point of time. He was buying, Bill Gates was buying the products, killing them off all the time. Right now, the PR is against on Mr. Mark Zuckerberg. And so, what is the one thing that you get as a positive impact from him, and how is it affecting as a scaler in the journey itself?
Right, right. There are two things that I learned from him, at least through the interactions. One is humility. I'll give example of why I say that. And two is sharing the value that you generate. Um, I'll give examples of both. So I remember like this was the this all this happened in the first week. So when I had joined, by coincidence, my desk was right opposite Mark Zuckerberg's. So I had joined, and like there was nobody there. I had just gone and taken my seat, and I was just trying to set up my laptop. And he walked up to my desk, and he himself introduced himself, saying that, "Hey, I'm Mark. Welcome to the company, etc., etc." Then the same day, we were so Facebook used to give free food. So dinner also, we used to stay back and like have dinner and then go back home. So we were having dinner in a hall. There were three of us, and he himself came and joined us on the table. And imagine, like, these are three people who are extremely junior. Like we all had just graduated from college. This is a company which has like 1,500 people, 300 engineers. There, like, he chose a desk to come and sit with us, and he himself said like, "Hey, how is it going, etc." We were very very shy, so there was a lot of awkward silence for long durations of time. But that incident taught me one thing, that even as a large leader, I mean, Facebook was even then a $15 billion company. he was very humble. He would like to actually, he hated the fact that the company is becoming so big that he's being perceived as unapproachable. um, the second incident that actually happened with me, um, um, I am just trying to see like how I can phrase that.
Take your time.
um,
No, we are not in a hurry. It is just a
yeah,
raw conversation, so that is supposed to happen.
yeah,
It's very raw that I'm asking.
right. I mean, the second thing is like everybody who joined, even the people who joined on a new grad level, um, they were given a significant amount of ownership into Facebook, um, as in like the amount of stocks you get. And um, I mean, while that was great, I mean, Facebook was trying to attract talent that would not go to Google, and hence it made sense. There were a few other things that happened. If you performed well, you would never have to come and ask for either more equity or more compensation. Like those would happen immediately, proactively. Like somebody would come and appreciate you for, like, let's say, a larger impact that you created. And then I had this one case where all of my equity was doubled in just a day, because like there was something I had built which had a massive impact. That culture of recognizing people and giving them value constantly, that's a culture I had seen for the first time. I had worked at a few other companies in the past. I had heard of other company cultures in the past. Like this was very new to me. So um, Facebook in those days, for the engineers they had, they would go out of their way to make sure that they were well rewarded if they were doing really well.
But don't you think this impact system is now being used in a bad light now? Because I've seen a lot of team managers misusing this impact for the lower engineers. Don't you think it is moving in the wrong direction now?
I think it goes back to how you phrase the impact, right? So I mean, the impact framework has its merit, because then you're not measuring somebody on the number of code lines they push, the number of
Yeah.
hours they spend in the office. Rather, you tell them that even if you make 2 lines of code changes, but that really moves a metric massively, um, then that's much better than, let's say, spending 1 week in the office and writing like churning out like 2,000 lines of code that doesn't achieve a lot. um, I think the impact framework, however, only works if people have good visibility of business and they have enough flexibility on like things they can pick up within their teams.
Agree,
If
agree.
you restrict them, and they don't have the power to make calls there, then I mean the impact system doesn't work.
Uh,
If I am the one allocating you tasks, then I mean there is not a lot I can do. So it has its merit, but it needs to be implemented in the right way. Sure, I mean there are a few people who haven't implemented it the right way, but done well, I mean it has it has merits.
Okay, so moving into another one of here. Now, enough of the Facebook and your old days chit chat and all of that. Now, moving on to what is the story behind moving interview bid to Scalar? I didn't. I mean, why did you change the name?
Right. So interview bit was initially, again, like there is some context there. So we started interview bit saying that we want to test whether building a free product which has a lot of engagement features that can solve for educational outcomes. That was the We were doing an experiment to check the thesis. Fortunately or unfortunately, it got so popular, then it started taking a lot of our time. Um, when we were starting Scalar, again, like the vision was, how do we build this online Stanford for masses? The problem is, like, if you're building online Stanford and the name is interview bit, there is a very direct perception that this is an institute that teaches you how to crack interviews, because the name says interview bit. So so the move from interview bit to a different brand name happened because we wanted to move away from the positioning that we are only for interviews. We're rather for building well-rounded developers who could not only get into great companies but also perform really well there.
Okay, so what I am getting the context here now is that it's not just about interview bit. Is like Scalar is not about just interviews anymore. You are looking people to build more on like React or Angular, or moreover as a generalized developer. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, so generalized developers, where the structure is, I mean, sure, I mean, React or any other tech stack or tech framework which helps you build a product, that is super important, and that is obviously a part of Scalar as well. But before that, like, there is some amount of groundwork to be done on you before you start to get into the field being productive. In fact, like, if you watch a lot of these karate movies, they make you do a lot of exercises. They're not doing actually karate before you actually get into the karate field doing karate. So Skiller has, I mean, if you look at our curriculum, like, if there is a 9 month of curriculum, then it has almost six to 6.5 months of these exercises that you do, which makes you very, very strong on certain kind of muscles. And then we push you in the field and say that now go and build, now go build X, Y, Z. It becomes then easier for you to just build because of the muscle that has been built earlier. Um, and by coincidence, it like the larger companies care about that muscle too. So so it works out.
So, okay, so now I'm trying to ask you some of the questions. Feel free to just say pass in case you don't like any of them because I'm going a little bit into the tech side now. So, what is the tech stack of the scalar infrastructure? You obviously have to scale for a lot of users and probably you are planning for millions of users to come in. So, if you can share, like, how does the big tech infrastructure looks like?
Yeah, I'll give you a boring answer. We're based on AWS. Within that, obviously, like, we have EC2 instances, we have Lambda jobs, we have RDS. I mean, in spite of growing so much, I mean, we're still on a relational DB, which is MySQL. Everything is on top of MySQL. Um, on front end, we use React. As the framework on which, like, most of the UI is built and interactions are built. On the back end is written in Ruby on Rails. Not the most efficient framework, but it helps you get features out really fast.
It
So
works. I love Ruby on Rails because there's only one way to do the things. There's not a thousand way to do the things, and that's why probably you might have implemented ROR.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
So
why don't we have? Why can't I see apps for scalars in the App Store? So when is that coming out?
right. So again, like, because initially, like, there was a lot of focus on just learning coding and stuff around coding. We felt like the experience of coding on mobile is not very optimal. You actually have to sit on a desktop or a laptop and then code, because then you can get the real, you can actually iterate fast enough there. So hence there was no app. We felt like it's a suboptimal experience. That being said, like, now that we're doing a lot of this free learning content for people, which includes a lot of videos that you can probably consume on the go, includes a lot of articles that you can possibly consume on the go. We are building a app for Skiller,
Oh,
which
that's
is
nice.
primarily on just free learning. It will go live uh, either sometime end of this month or early next month.
Ah, that's awesome. So you're releasing for both platforms, iOS and Android.
Right now, Android only.
Okay.
So the iOS users might not be able to use it, but like, depending on the feedback, etc., that we get, we'll quickly build out the iOS part as well. We went with the native Android app implementation because we felt like, one, there were really good Android engineers we could hire to get it off the ground. And two, I mean, just like certain experiences around playing videos, storing videos, they're just better and less laggy as compared to, let's say, a React Native or a Flutter. So we built it natively.
Ah, makes sense. So how many developers actually handle Scalar? Just a rough ballpark. I don't want you to, if you are not comfortable, I won't say. But how many developers on a rough scale handles the entire Scalar infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, so including the interns right now, we do give out 6 month internships. Including the interns right now, we're approximately 80 odd people.
80
Um,
developers.
yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
goodness.
so this is, by the way, a combination of developers, design, and product. But it is fair to assume that, like, probably um, developers are 80%, 80 to 90% of the entire team.
Oh, goodness. That is some scale. So do you stream on your own infrastructure or you use like Zoom or something?
No, we have our own infrastructure.
Ah.
There is an internal software we built which is called Trona. Um, there is some history to the to why the name was chosen as Drona, but that's where like all of our lectures happen. That's our own internal streaming thing that we built.
See, we once tried to build a streaming stuff, and it's really expensive to be honest, because the users come in and you have to keep on rolling the instances, and it can go crazy and out of the hand easily.
Yeah, I mean, so there's some ways you can optimize that. I mean, but primarily I'll tell you like why we did it. We did it because we needed one very granular insights into attendance of people. I mean, even if you attend like part of the lecture, we wanted insight into that. um, the other was that we wanted to build a lot of in-class dynamics, which are very hard to do on Zoom, right? So, for example, internally we have a coin ecosystem. You do things that you earn coin, your team earns coins. So even within the lecture, like if you we do these quizzes have their own rank list, and like for people who stay on the top, they end up earning coins. We track like the yes and no reactions that you give. We track the questions that you raise, just to see like how who is active versus who is not. All that granular information we were not able to get through Zoom, which inhibited us from building certain product features which would push people to be more active. I mean, at the end of the day, education is a lot about how do you crack engagement, how do you make people consistent for a very long duration, not let them drop off. So a lot of that happens if you have visibility into all kinds of data that people are working on, right? So building it in-house helped us get visibility into that. That being said, yes, it is technically expensive.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that must be generating a lot of bills. I'm pretty aware of the AWS infrastructure. We have tried it once. It is hell of an expensive thing to actually pull this off. Of course, we both are not Hotstar. At a scale of Hotstar, they are pretty giant and massive. They can do it. They have built even their own custom plugins to do the auto scaling, so it doesn't work on just CPU or memory. It has another. There's a nice talk on the YouTube. Just probably have 200 views on it, but still one of the best talk that I have ever seen from the CTO of the Hotstar. But again, kudos to you that you have pulled it on and you are absorbing the cost on that. So you are making Amazon guys quite rich there.
I mean, to be honest, the the amount of expense that we did on Zoom for hosting the classes, because we had to buy the paid subscription, we're doing similar amount of expense even with this our own live streaming infrastructure. If you want, we can probably share more details with you later on how we went about implementing. If you want, I mean, you could probably use that as well.
I would love to host another product engineer from your team to discuss just this inside details, vaguely, of course, that how the live classes actually works at Scalar. So I would love to do that kind of interaction, or probably in the Bangalore itself, because I can put in more quality videos and audio for that, and probably a board or something for that. People would love to watch that how a scalable infrastructure is going on and how that is built.
Absolutely, absolutely, would love to do that.
Okay, so another one coming in. That one is, I am a heavy Instagram user. I am not on Twitter or anything, but what is this with these masterclasses? My entire Instagram is just filled with them. So many of the masterclasses, so many people coming in from Google, Facebook, you name the company, they are coming in. What is this? Is this a pure live class? Is this a lecture hold class? Do I get lecture afterward also? Like how does it run, and what's the goal behind it? Can you share insight on that?
Right. Yeah, as I said in the beginning, like everything has to start with the why. um, so with a lot of learning on for lot of learning for software engineering, especially like when it tends to get a little more complex, for when you start discussing larger systems, that learning traditionally had stayed on like blogs like highscalability.com, etc., or like engineering blogs of companies, which to be honest don't get a lot of visibility. People know about it, but they don't go and read it as often. So we felt maybe the right way to get people excited about learning these things would be that we run these campaigns on something that is topical. What do I mean by topical? For example, let's say if Zomato is launching a 10-minute delivery of food services, then maybe we do a masterclass where we discuss how that might work in the backend, because there is a lot of prediction of what the person might order. You obviously can't cook in cook and deliver in 10 minutes. You have to sort of predict, here is what people might order in the next 30 minutes, and hence I have that ready. So because I mean, you pick a topical problem statement which somebody might relate to, and then you take them through certain concepts in the class and teach them, they might be able to learn more. So masterclass was just a way of for us to popularize certain pieces of learning in the tech community. Building large systems, like understanding architectures or even problem solving for that matter. How do we take a current topic and translate that into, I mean, current trend, and then translate that into a class which makes learning interesting? So it happens all life, happens from people. I mean, we prefer people who have worked on similar systems, but not always are we able to find people who have worked on similar systems. So in that case, we go with the best guess of how it might be working, and then we take a class on that. I, for example, have taken a lot of master classes myself.
So I was about to come on to this question that being CEO of the company itself, it is difficult. You have a lot of meetings, you have a lot of investments, so you have to go through with a lot of board meetings and stuff. So how often do you teach?
I teach. It varies actually, but like there are days like when I teach like two classes a day, and every class is like 2 to 3 hours. So I end up teaching like 4 to 6 hours in a day, on multiple days. But right now, I mean, the frequency is typically 3 to 4 classes a week. Every class being 2 to 3 hours. And one of the reasons why I teach is like because I, one, love teaching. Two, uh, I mean, running a company is also about understanding what your consumers are feeling. There is no better way to understand whether they really love the learning part or not, if you're teaching them. I mean, if you're teaching them, then you really get the real pulse of every single user of Scalar. So hence, there is a selfish interest in also teaching them.
I agree on that point. Okay, final two question before we kind of move into the question that people can ask. First one book recommendation from your side.
That depends on who you are. If you are going to be starting a new company, there is a book called Zero to One. Um, Please go and read that. If you are somebody who's already running a company but is struggling in scaling it, there is a book called The $1 Trillion Coach, um, which is about like this coach who had coached both Mark Zuckerberg as well as the Apple CEO Steve Jobs, as well as the Google guys. So the combined evaluation of those companies is far higher than $1 trillion. But there's a book called The $1 Trillion Coach. Read that. If you're somebody who is a techie and wants to get better at tech, there is a book called Designing Data Intensive Applications. If you're a backend person, so I would recommend that. If you're a front end person, and this is a very stupid recommendation, it's a very basic book, but I still feel it's a golden book. There's a book called JavaScript: The Good Parts. Um, Please read that book. JavaScript is fascinating, and and the deeper you understand it, like, it helps you build things better.
Okay. What are you learning these days?
Running a company. As the
Nice
company
one.
is scaling. To be honest, like, the the skills of running a company are very different at different stages of the company. And given like the company is growing really fast, I mean, we encounter newer problem statements almost every single day. So my entire life right now is just jumping from one problem statement to the other, and then making sure we come up with good solutions there. So I'm in the trenches right now. I mean, right now, and that is actually a very rewarding and rich experience, because everything you do there, you end up becoming a better, more learned person after that, because you've learned by doing. So right now, I mean, I'm just running the company to learn more.
So any more plan of acquisition that are coming up? Can we see that in the news in the next 6 months or something? You are
um,
acquiring like going very aggressively. So any new more acquisition that you're doing?
I mean, not right now. And again, like, these acquisitions were not planned as such. Like, so there are certain verticals that start to grow faster than we imagined, and then we feel that, if there is another acquisition that makes us stronger as a whole, then it makes sense to figure out like whether it's worth partnering, and then it ends up happening. Um, there are none on the charter right now. I
Okay.
mean, we were so busy running the company, we might not have time to spend time on acquisitions. That being said, you never know, right? Like it's if something shows up, if something is very exciting, we might consider.
Okay, so there are still a possibility that more might come in.
Yeah, but I mean, there is nothing on the calendar right now.
Okay, okay. So again, moving back onto the circle again, that yes, a lot of people think that edtech is a competition. I think that it's a kind of a collaboration effort. It's a single mission. Our paths are different. I'm moving into the path of providing courses. You already know that at 299, 199, and more affordable and kind of a free in that. You move into the part where you put in a lot of high quality engineers, high quality efforts there, and you are trying to make kind of a university alternative. I'm trying to have kind of a wine with the university kind of a thing. You are becoming kind of a standalone university in itself. So yes, our mission is same. We want to provide better quality education. Our paths are different, obviously, and I totally appreciate your path. I totally respect your path as well. So what's your take on that one?
Yeah, I mean, by the way, this is my personal opinion, and I have a lot of respect for everybody in the ecosystem contributing to edtech. So I'll tell you like what I personally feel, and I might be wrong, to be honest. I personally feel that education traditionally, if you look at like the last 100 years, last 200 years of education, how people learn has been through two different means. One is people either consumed books, right? So they would go to library or they would just borrow a book and they would read the book and that would help them to learn. Or they would go and learn at schools or colleges. And schools and colleges were different because you would be learning with other people there, right? There would be a teacher there would be other uh, peers there, and then I learned from humanly. Um, Now, in the newer world, now we have multiple other channels as well. You have a lot of resources on YouTube, or like you have the Udemy's or the Coursera's of the world. They help provide a much. I mean, I feel like the recorded videos that they provide, those are just far better formats of books. It's much more effective way of absorbing the same information, because in a book, I mean, the engagement, the graphic part of it, that gets lost, but like you can do a lot more in a recorded video. So it's definitely very very important, and it is how, I mean, it is I believe that that's the future of books, the recorded videos and courses that get created over a period of time. That's the that those would be the new books that people would keep referring to. So for example, I told you a few books to read. Maybe 10 years down the line, people would ask you, hey, what are your favorite playlists or courses that you would recommend for people, right? So that might be the shift there. However, that what I do feel is that along with books, there needs to be a coexistence of a college slash school ecosystem, which also has like this way of um, high quality education. The reason why I feel so is because books are harder to complete. A lot of people start, but less people end up completing books. Even with recorded courses, right? Like maybe 100 people start, and then one or two people or three people end up completing the entire series of videos that might be meant for them. uh, However, if you look at schools and colleges, most people don't end up dropping off from a school just one fine day. They end up completing, let's say, a year of course or 2 year of course. So there is merit in like that social and human aspect where I'm learning with other people. I have a human interacting with me every day, which is the live learning piece. And in our ecosystem, what we're trying to do is we're trying to scale those school and college kind of ecosystem. We are also, by the way, creating books, but for now we're creating free books, uh, more or less, like the recorded courses, etc., that we're creating there, we're trying to make them free as much as possible.
Okay, so now I guess we can take up the questions from the audience itself. Yeah, so first one have been waiting for a long. Is LCO acquired by Scalar? I guess not yet.
Sorry, is
Is LCO acquired by Scalar?
no, no, no,
No, so
not
it's
yet,
an
not
official answer.
yet.
No, we are not acquired by a Scalar. Okay, so again, if you have any question, you can ping them up. Start pinging them up. We can pull them in and can have the answers from the Anshuman itself or by me. Again, A lot of people are asking more on a tech specific question like Salesforce or something. I won't be picking them up. It's more about a bit of an entrepreneurship journey. If you have some things about the scalar or something, then sure, shoot them up. We would love to have them. If you are running or trying to build a company or something in the tech world, at tech space, probably we would be happy to answer all of them. So I guess we can have that, and a lot of people, you can now hit the like button and everything, all that. So Anshuman, can you say that probably? Can you people ask people to subscribe the channel as well, and you guys can hit
Yeah, yeah,
the
absolutely.
Scalar channel as well in case you love the content there.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, I have personally interacted with Hitesh now multiple times. I know he is a stellar teacher. So
Thank
if
you.
you're watching this, please subscribe to his channel and like this video. If you like this video reaches more people. If you subscribe to his channel, then like it is for your own selfish interest. You get to see a lot of um, these fantastic learning pieces that he does himself time after time, which will only help you, right? Like it help you learn more.
Yeah. So one question that came in is the biggest fear about the scalar that you had.
Biggest fear about a scalar that I have for the future. Um, I mean, right now it will be wrong of me to say that there are no fears. Right now, like scalar is a combination of a lot of moving pieces. When I say moving pieces, um, even today we are building this brand where people are able to see what we are truly able to achieve internally. People know like who we are, what we do, and why I mean, we are where we are. Externally, like that story still needs to be told, and people still, I mean, this is actually a very new way of learning, right? Like Hitesh mentioned that the pandemic is getting over. What will happen in the future? What are your plans? So there are external dynamics changing. It's a new way of learning. There are these external variables that we don't control. So going forward, I mean, there are these off chances that maybe as there is a new world that comes into place, maybe we aren't as attractive as we were before. So that is one risk that I foresee. The other is like we're also today very heavy on sales and marketing as we scale.
Yeah,
Like
there's another question on the
scaling
same
machines
thing,
is,
that how to manage branding for a small edtech startup.
yeah. I'll come to that maybe just right after this, right? So the other like fear that I have is as we scale, if you're not able to scale humans in the same culture, then what happens? That's the other fear that I have. So two large fears, like external factors that we don't control, what happens because of that, and the second one being that like how do you scale human teams um, to to sustain the growth that you're having. On the brand piece, my personal, I mean, look, when we got funded, we talked to so many people, and so many people started giving us advice on how to go and create these fancy brands. A lot of people who were inspired by Apple, so they would give us like advice on like how to create premiumness in brand, etc. what what has been my experience though, that brand gets created by what your internal users are saying about you. You have to first fix that has to be super good. I mean, everybody should be just raving about you. If you do that, the rest of the parts of the brand becomes so easy to solve. Then comes the second part of the journey, which is you have a team that defines your brand guidelines, brand visuals, what do you stand for, and then everywhere you're speaking the same language. But that's, I believe, is the phase two of the journey. Phase one for an early stage startup should just be that if I get somebody to pay for my product, they have A plus experience. There is nothing that should go wrong for them. They should get a white glove experience, and that's all they should care about. You do that, and then your brand is sorted.
Okay, nice one. So another one is about your company again, future plan. Any offline academy for Scalar in the future?
Yeah. So you remember, like I talked about these schools and colleges, and I believe like one thing that schools and colleges do really well is that there is a lot of peer-to-peer learning that happens, right? Where you live in the same place. As I said, like the Sundar Pichais of the world were created because they were in very smart communities together. um, while we've been trying online and we'll keep trying online, it's harder to do in an online setup. I mean, when you are together, then like a lot of these casual conversations happen that would otherwise not have happened. So one of the things we're doing is we are launching what is called as Scalarverse. Scalarverse are these buildings that we're tying up with actually co-living spaces. These buildings where only scalar students live, mostly students from your own batch. That way, when you learn, not only are you learning online from your instructors, mentors, TAs, but you also have these people living with you who are studying the same thing. And then there are certain rituals that we build. Like, for example, Sunday is a movie night. There are these allocated hours for group study. Um, when somebody gets placed in that building, they come and actually take a masterclass for everybody on what they faced, what is their advice for other people. We're planning that we'll probably have a mentor or a TA living in the building, so that in case you need guidance any time of the day, you can go and knock on their door and just ask, like, I'm facing this problem, what should I do? um, so there are those things that we're planning. So we're going towards a hybrid model, hybrid optional model for some people, because we believe that there is merit in creating. One part of Stanford is their hostels.
Yeah,
Now
so
that hostels
what
would
I
have,
can see from right now is whatever the experience that I got into variety of colleges. I have lived into a lot of colleges, hostel, including IIT Bombay and stuff. You want to bring that out for everyone.
exactly replicating the Stanford hostel or replicating the IT Bombay hostel experience, for other people as well. Again, the concern comes, look, I mean, I might already have a family, I might have a wife. We enable that too. So these are buildings which have 1 BHK, 2 BHK apartments as well, which you can take. That way you could be living there with your wife and kids if you want to. But the thing that we're trying to enable is, like, how do we make sure that, like, the exact experience you had in hostels where you're learning with people who are equally enthused about learning, you have exactly that here as well.
Okay, so another one that is again very personal. You can feel free to skip this one. Why is Scalar so expensive? Will the price increase further for upcoming batches? I'll take down the easy one for you. So Scalar is expensive. Obviously, it has a business cost to run. There are a lot of engineers that are coming in. So price wise, I have never mind anybody, because people rant a lot about the pricing. I understand it's a business that needs to run, and sometimes the cost of running the business is expensive. Like, for example, you can get much powerful hardware in the Windows world, but still you buy the Apple one. It's ridiculously expensive, but sometimes it suits. So I'll take the one on the expensive side. But what is this? You can take the last of it. Will the price increase further for upcoming batches?
Actually, I want to take both,
Sure,
because I
sure, go
think
ahead.
it's best to address it. Um, so, I mean, look, I mean, we don't never started with the philosophy that we should create a high price product. We started with a product which was free. It is still free. Interview bit is still free of cost. We're also creating a lot of free courses which are completely free of cost, like these high quality recorded courses. The reason why we even moved towards Scalar was because we started noticing that on InterviewBit we have 3 million users. In fact, when we made the decision at that point of time, we had like 1.5 million users, and of that, the percentage of people actually completing the problems, or like even reaching, we have stages or levels there, reaching the level secondary, second last level or the level after that, they were less than 1%.
Oh,
And like we noticed that people who were completing, they already were coming from like some of the best colleges, right? So what we were becoming was the, like, we were uplifting the already uplifted. That was not why we had started interview, but we wanted to help the people who were struggling to become much better, create like large deltas for them. So then we said, okay, fine, what does it take? It needs to, I mean, and there, like, the vision was, let's create online Stanford. Online Stanford has live learning. I mean, the teachers who interact with you in a class. Now, who could be teachers? Teachers have to be really highly qualified software engineers. They already get paid a lot in their jobs, so if I have to hire them, then I at least have to make sure I match their salaries or give them higher, right? And to be honest, like, you can't really do a lot with that. That's market dynamics. If you underpay them, they'll leave at some point of time, no
obviously.
matter how much you love teaching. Very similarly, like, we had mentors, we have TAs, they all need to be paid. As Hitesh mentioned, they are business expenses. So if I create a model where I am losing money for every student I enroll, then that model will never sustain. I could do what Uber and Ola did for some time, raise funding and still sustain. But at some point of time, I will have to match the prices to what I'm incurring as a cost. Otherwise, the model will not work.
Yeah,
So hence,
I also face this, that a lot of people have this mindset that education should all be free. They don't ask this same thing to politician that it should be free there. But people who are trying to bring a change in that, they ask this to them that, hey, just make education entirely free. Surely certain amount we can do, but we have to pay the bills. So your take.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the other part, right, like which where I mean, I we see education as a piece for which we don't want to pay. Sometimes we feel it should be made free. I mean, obviously, if that is coming from the government support, great. But otherwise, what that leads to is like what has it has led to in the last 10-20 years is that teaching vertical has become a low paid vertical. If it becomes a low paid vertical, what it does is like it does not attract good talent. If it does not attract good talent, then what happens is like now the people that are teaching you, they are underqualified, hence they teach you wrong stuff. Hence people who graduate, they graduate with wrong understanding. So in that cycle, starting from the point that I don't want to pay my educator leads to a bad outcome at the end. So educators should be people who are probably paid well, where like the top talent wants to come and become educator. If the top brains of our generation want to teach, that's when like there are like larger pool of people who would graduate who are replicas of those top brains. um,
Yeah,
so
that's a
I
fantastic
understand that
take
it
one.
feels I understand it feels that like we should have education as free, but again, like you should look at a larger picture, what that leads to. If education is made completely free, then it will become impossible for Hitesh to just sustain his own living, or it will become impossible for me to just sustain my own living, just being a teacher. So I might then go and figure out a job. He might go and figure out a job. We'll never have teachers like us in the ecosystem unless government supports. Government does not support us
They
like
will never. If everybody is going to become educated, who's going to vote for them on the agenda of these caste and racism? Who's going to do that? Educated people doesn't do that. They just vote on how much you have built roads, how much infrastructure you have built. If they're gonna ask them, who's gonna ask for how the voting system is going to collapse?
that. Also
Anyways,
question
it
of
was nice catching up with you. And again, I know you are a very, very busy person. One thing I can take from here is, can we have on board somebody from your product team so that we can have another discussion about the infrastructure and building? Because I think that would be a fantastic discussion about somebody to learn even system design or something. So can we have on board as a commitment to all the people around here on the live chat? Live chat.
I mean, if it was me, I can commit right away. Um, since like the person doing it is best comes from the product and tech team. So I promise I will try my best. If I can get a commitment from them, I would love to have them come on your channel and then explain like how things work on Scalar, like how we've been able to scale. So from me, you have a yes, but I still need a confirmation from somebody from
Sure,
the
sure.
product.
That is more than enough for us. And I know you are a very, very busy person. Thank you so much for spending an entire hour with us. It was fantastic conversation. I know best of the conversation doesn't get best of the views, but still we are doing it. The best talk that I've seen on scalability is on Hotstar that gets 200 views. It burns my heart that why people are not watching this gold content. Hopefully people will share this video and it will get more shares and more views so that people can understand what it looks like to build a scalable edtech startup which is rising and one of the biggest one in the country itself. And I would love to give you a best of wish. Let's transform the education system entirely. Our paths definitely moves onto a different side, but let's meet on the same point at the same hill.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You're doing great job, Hitesh. Like, please continue the work that you're doing. There are a lot of people benefiting from it. So we are on the same path, same journey, different solutions, but like
Yeah,
we're
different
solving the same
solution.
problem statement. So happy to have you alongside, solving similar problem statements.
Sure, let's catch up sometime in Bangalore and have a coffee or iced tea. That would be my preference.
Chai, chai for me, iced tea for you.
Okay, thank you so much. And let me finish up this live now. Thank you. Bye bye.
All right, bye everyone.